Smokepit Fairytales, Chapter 4, Operation Cerberus. I slept most of the ride through the desert. I woke up in time to see the endless fields of windmills along the highway. They were surreal, as if I was in a science fiction movie. The giant white beams towered out of an otherwise desolate landscape. I passed back out and didn't wake up again until we were in 29 Palms. The sun beat down on the sand. We were drenched with sweat before we even started unloading our gear from the trucks. We were quickly checked in and assigned to companies. Hunter, being the team leader, stayed with headquarters and services company. Stats went to golf, Eclair to Fox, and I went to weapons. It was about the same setup as our last deployment, except for Eclair, who was our boot at the time. The four of us were stashed away into the same barracks room while we waited to deploy. I had a good reunion with my platoon when I found them. They were already half drunk. Everyone across the battalion was already set to deploy. All there was to do was wait. The rumor going around was that we were heading out in 4 days, though Marine Corps rumors usually carried the accuracy of middle school cheerleader gossip. We had a battalion formation the next morning, and we'd more than likely get better word about pushing out. Combined Anti-Armor Team 1, CAT 1, was the platoon and weapons company with which I deployed before. We had a different way of going about things. The 2nd Battalion of the 7th Marine Regiment already had a reputation for being cowboys, but CAT 1 was a ragged group of straight-up pirates. We flew the Jolly Roger on our trucks and even had our own slogan, Cockstrong Warrior Man Gods. Our mission was to roll up on armored vehicles with heavy machine guns and missiles and provide support to the guys on foot. In Afghanistan, we never got to use our weapons on tanks. It was always against Talibans with AK-47s and RPGs. We joked about maybe actually getting to use the tow missiles to fight armor in Iran. The next morning, the battalion cramped at the base theater so the colonel could speak to us about the deployment. Good morning, Marines. As you know, we are about to depart for Iraq to combat the Islamic Republic of Iran's aggression in the region. When Iran assaulted into Iraq, they pushed over the Tigris all the way to the Euphrates. Our coalition and the Iraqi military have halted the Iranian advances along the river, but they're feeble and won't hold forever. Personally, I don't understand how they can hold Iranians over the river but can't keep ISIS in Syria, but that's neither here nor there. Our course of action for our initial mission, Operation Cerberus, will be to occupy the line along the Euphrates River to deny Iran any further movement west. U.S. and the other NATO forces will hold up against the river to secure the coast against Iranian aggression. When I know what will be happening to the west in Al-Anbar, I will be the first to let you know. Hopefully, the Russians will stay in Syria. Now, gentlemen, it is my intention to bring you men home alive. But seeing as how things are, and looking at the history of conflicts, I know that there will be those of us who will not live to see the other end of this conflict. When it happens, though, we will medevac the fallen, and there will be no time for remorse. We will still have a mission to accomplish. The Iranians should have no doubt that we are their enemy, and we will bring them ultimate destruction. Show no mercy or pity to them or ISIS if we're to fight them. Be ferocious in combat, but if someone surrenders to you, remember that the laws of war dictate that they must be treated with dignity. The ones who fight us, give them 2 in the chest and 1 in the head. We will bring shame to neither our God, country, or corps. Do not stain this battalion with dishonor. What is going to happen with the units defending the Euphrates? Units are flying into Turkey and Kuwait and are going to be convoyed to the locations they're holding down. The units will receive their vehicles and heavier weapons as they become available. I'm not counting on anything for a while. Now, Marines, here comes the bad news. 2-7 is departing tonight. Your company commanders will pass further word to you. We were called to attention and dismissed. Everyone bitched about the short notice of the deployment. It would be a magic trick for everyone to bang their wives one more time before we left. The battalion left the theater and consolidated into companies, except for weapons, who broke into platoons. Weapons companies don't normally act as a company. Instead, the individual platoons break away and support the line companies with mortars, missiles, rockets, heavy machine guns, hate, and other miscellaneous death dealings. The Marines of Cat 1 formed a circle around the platoon commander, First Lieutenant Brisker. Brisker was a tall, lean, mean son of a bitch with a sharp nose and crystal eyes. He put enough Copenhagen in his mouth to form a horseshoe around the teeth of his lower jaw. In his commanding voice, he admitted, "Nothing the BC said gave me a hard-on. I haven't got any goosebumps yet. Are you motivated about this?" The Marines screamed, "Ah!" "Here's a secret about the Marine Corps that you have more than likely already figured out. We hide things from you and play games with your mind. Fuck, I knew we were leaving tonight weeks ago. We didn't tell you because we want you guys to be pissed the fuck off." The lieutenant spit Copenhagen in the sand by his feet. "Well, I'm going to motivate you guys a bit. Iran, Fuck that. I'm not going to quote 300 like I've heard the Lance Corporals do around the barracks. Who knows who John Glenn is? Fonzie, one of the machine gunners, spouted off. He was an astronaut, sir. That's right, Brisker growled. John Glenn was the first American in space. He was also the oldest man to go back into space, but before all that, he was a fucking Marine. I mean, he was an air winger. Brisker spat again. But we're not going to hold that against him right now. 1974, he ran for Senate. He ran against this man named Howard Metzenbaum. Metzenbaum was a cock-sucking son of a bitch. He put his thumbs in his pockets and started to walk around the circle. This ass hammock was having a debate with Glenn and asked him, how can you run for Senate if you've never had a real job? Now how the fuck would you feel if someone said that shit to you? I would have jumped across the podium and fucking stuck my thumbs in his eyeballs. However, John Glenn was a little tamer than I am. The Marines shouted. Anyway, John Glenn looked at this piece of shit motherfucker and said, and I'm paraphrasing here. Brisker's voice became loud enough to shake down a mountain. Hell's anger was in his tone. I served 23 years in the United States Marine Corps. I served through 2 wars. I flew 149 missions. My plane was hit by anti-aircraft fire on 12 different occasions. I was in the space program. It wasn't my checkbook, it was my fucking life on the line. It was not a 9-to-5 job where I took time off to get the daily cash receipts at the bank. I ask you to go with me, as I went the other day to the Veterans Hospital and look at these men. Look at their mangled bodies. Look them in the eye and tell me that they didn't have a job. You go to the space program and go as I have gone to the widows and orphans of Ed White, Gus Grissom, and Roger Chaffee. You look those kids in the eye and tell them that their dad didn't hold the job. You go with me on Memorial Day coming up and you go stand in Arlington National Cemetery, where I have more friends than I'd like to remember. And you watch those waving flags. You stand there and you think about this nation and you tell me those people didn't have a job. I'll tell you, Howard Metzenbaum, you should be on your knees every day of your life thanking God that there were some men who held a job. And they required a dedication to purpose, a love of country, and a dedication to duty that is more important than life itself. And their self-sacrifice is what made this country possible. If I ever held a job, Howard, what about you? Fuck! The lieutenant spit again. Isn't that badass?
Yeah!
Hey, roger that, Marines. Brisker pointed to Fonzie. Fonzie, you motivated? Fuck yeah, sir, I am. Good. Hey, Marines, when we get there, fuck that let the training take over bullshit. Do what you need to do out there for the Marines to the left and right of you. God, country, Corps, that don't matter at that point. Do what you need to do to bring you and your brothers home. When we push ISIS and Iran's ass out of Iraq, the Iraqi people will be on their knees every day thanking Allah that angry, pissed off Marines had been cut loose to save them. We're gonna go in there with tremendous capability with weapon systems, combat power, and motivation. And I'll tell you right now that the very reason you joined the Marine Corps, regardless of where you've been or your past experiences, except saying it or now's ad. The platoon gave the officer another, Hurrah! You're gonna get everything you've been hungry for. It's gonna be in your face and personal, and you're gonna give the enemy what he's been asking for. A good American ass kicking. With that being said, I don't want to see any of you again until 02 tomorrow. Have all your shit and be ready to go on the grinder. We scattered to the winds. Doc found me. He got put in Cat 1 because their old corpsman had broken his leg and couldn't deploy.
Hank!
What's up, Doc?
Dude, that lieutenant was a badass.
I know, right? We stopped at the smoke deck and lit up. Now, about him, no one can prove it, but the rumor about him from last deployment was that he's a dip-powered robot from the future sent back to save mankind. You know when you watch a movie and the officer is either a moron or the god of fucking death?
Yeah.
Brisker kicked the god of death in the dick. We call him the Cerbot. The next day, we flew from March Air Force Base in California to Maine, to Germany, and finally Kuwait. When we got to Kuwait, we were loaded into trucks and convoyed to the city of Al Najaf. Najaf didn't have too much going for it. There was a huge cemetery, a giant golden mosque, an airport, and the rest of the city was the typical beige brick of Middle Eastern cities. The only tactical aspects of the city were that it was on the Euphrates, so we could stop any further Iranian aggression. The battalion was spread through the city. Fox Company, Cat 1, and a mortar section were put at the airport. At one time, the facility was an airbase for Saddam's Air Force. There wasn't anything military left in the place, but since the war had started, the airport was closed for business. Iranians had shot down any civilian aircraft that had tried to fly out. Marines slept together as squads. If there was an artillery attack or an airstrike, they didn't want more than a handful of Marines to get killed with just one bomb. The Bravo section of Cat 1 slept in the hangar on the floor. Our territory was marked by a few Jolly Rogers and a wooden sign that read, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter. Cat 1 Bravo. Cockstrong warrior man gods." We had 3 points to our days at the airport now in the Jaff. We spent 8 hours a day standing guard. 8 hours filling sandbags and laying down barbed wire to fortify the area, and we had 8 hours to sleep. We only had MREs to eat until care packages started coming from loved ones. There weren't set meal times, we just eat whenever we had a minute. We wore our boonie covers and always had to have our weapon and at least one magazine on us at all times. When we washed our clothes, we had to do it with water bottles and soap, if we can get our hands on it. Now, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I never cleaned my uniform. It was painted with dirt and sweat stains. My trousers were stiff enough from salt to stand up on their own. The designated smoking area was next to an air terminal. It read Al Najaf Al Sharif International Airport in English. I assumed the Arabic writing above it was the same. There were camouflage nets draped from the side of the building to dilute the sun. A wooden bench and a table made by some engineers rested in the shade. It was a little more than 100 degrees outside. The heat radiating from the tarmac did us no favors. I sat under the netting on a bench, smoking a cigarette with a few other Marines. Sergeant Fields, Cat Bravo's section leader, asked if he could bump smoke.
Thanks, man.
Fields said as he drew the cylinder out of the pack. No problem, I quipped as I looked over the airstrip. A mirage of invisible fire burned over the asphalt. Hey, Sergeant.
What's up?
When are we getting vehicles? I mean, what's a cat section without trucks?
Hell if I know. Shit, we ain't even got missiles.
Yeah, just the 50s and Mark 19s, right?
Yep. I hope the Iranians don't decide to start something before we get it set up. I really don't want to be walking the whole way.
Do you know if we're getting MRAPs or Hummers?
No, I don't know for sure, but I heard we're getting MAT-Vs.
That'd be cool. Those things are badass.
Yeah, my chief concern, though, is I hope this shit don't play out like Desert Storm. I don't want to cross the river and have them all surrender before we can kill any of them.
Fields ashed a cigarette. Everyone in the smoke pit laughed. Doc showed up from around the corner and sat down next to me.
So, what's all this shit about anyway?
They probably think we're too tired of war to do anything about them starting shit. Apparently, they haven't read a history book and didn't see what we did to fucking Japan. There's all kinds of political bullshit about what's happening. I'm just here for the fight. Point me towards the enemy.
There are other reasons to be here, Sergeant.
Mick Bland said.
I want to see some hot-ass Haji chicks.
Yeah, I added. Persian chicks are hot.
Yeah, when they don't have their faces cut off because they live in some shithole country. I mean, seriously. Your chick wants to sew some skin. Here's militant Muslim rationale. I can see my woman's ankles. Let's burn her face off. Fuck that shit.
Fields spat on the concrete.
I will go and fight these fuckers anytime, anywhere, in any country. What's wrong with these assholes is they don't live in America. Let women walk around ass naked. I bet you money's even some super militant feminists would rather let women be viewed as a sexual object than a piece of property whose face I get to burn off because I'm bored tonight. I mean, how fucking fucked in the fucking head do you have to be to take a smoking hot-ass woman and beat her face into the rock because you can?
Well,
Doc interrupted Fields.
I've never hit a woman, but there are reasons to do it. If you want equality, any reason to hit a man is also a reason to hit a woman. You know, if a person's a person.
We all stared at Doc.
Just saying.
Fields gave Doc a blank look.
Dude, for me to cut off a chick's face, that bitch would have to be the person lighting the ovens in Auschwitz.
So what you're saying is even in the midst of a Holocaustic nightmare, the women are still stuck working the ovens?
Yeah, and these jihadists hate Jews too. Maybe the SS were all Persians. I mean, Iran means land of the Aryans.
Well, fuck all of them. Fuck them. Nazis and jihadists are the same kind of assholes. Shit, they should get together with the ancient Egyptians, build a base on the moon, try ethnically cleansing that. You know what? The problem is, Israel is packed with smoking hot women who strut around in jeans and skimpy t-shirts. All these dickless faggot cocksuckers are jealous. That's all that is. That's why they hate the Jews.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that I want to put my dick under a burqa. But I guess that would work too.
I looked at Doc and inhaled my cigarette. Doc, have you ever fucked anything that wasn't from the Philippines?
What about your pocket pussy?
Fields jabbed. Doc threw his hands up.
You guys are assholes. And no, I think my pocket pussy is from there too.
We all laughed at Doc. Fields flicked a cigarette into the ammo can we used as an ashtray.
Stay motivated, gentlemen.
I said, Cockstrong warrior man gods, as Fields walked off. He raised his hand to make the metal horns as he walked away. After we'd been in Al Najaf for about a month and a half, doing little more than cleaning weapons, filling sandbags, and smoking cigarettes, we stopped fortifying. We hadn't received any word about movement or actually kicking off the war. We had just built up enough to where it wasn't necessary anymore. We got our first mail call around that time, too. Most of us have been writing letters and sending them home, but this was the first time anyone got anything back. I got a letter from Kennedy. It read, "Babe, I hope you're enjoying Iraq. You know what I think of the situation, so I won't go into that. Nothing's going on here except for the weather's been unusually cold. I've been having some issues with the people at the Purple Church, so I don't think I'll be working there much longer. I just about have enough money to go back to school. What do they have you doing there? The news says you guys are waiting there for something to happen. Everyone's asking for pictures of you in Iraq. When you can, please send one, if you can. I miss you. I miss the feel of your hands on me. Your hair, face, head, back, and chest. Anywhere. I miss that one eyebrow raised thing you do. It's very sexy. I miss the feel of you inside of me. I miss your cute ass and gorgeous eyes. If it were up to me, I'd spend every day with you behind closed doors. Whether you're just playing with my hair or having, as you put it, freaky monkey sex. Even though there's nothing freaky or monkey about it. Except for when you've been drinking tequila and you know what you do. I probably sound like a babbling idiot. I'm sorry. I miss you. Yours, Yasmina Gubladon, Cassandra Zidon, Kennedy." She also enclosed a provocative photo of herself covering her breasts and vagina with her hands. The perfect amount of her body was left to the imagination. I put the picture in my wallet next to the one of satin that I've been carrying around since boot camp, even though we broke up right before my first deployment. I reread the letter a few times, lying on the hangar floor, propped up against my pack. A voice from behind me spoke. "Hey, that chick's pretty hung up on you, huh?" I looked up to see Fonzie. "What's up, dude?" "Nothing much, man. Your girl's got an interesting name." "Well, I mean, she's Persian." I pulled out her photo and showed it to him. "Damn!" Fonzie exclaimed. "What are you doing about to kill a bunch of Iranians if you're banging one?" "I'm going Genghis Khan style. Kill the men, fuck the women." "Nice," Fonzie said as he handed me back the photo. "I got a package, man, but I just got off watch, so I haven't opened it yet." "Well, let's go open it," I added enthusiastically. Fonzie and I walked to his area. He had one white U.S. postage box sitting on his pack. He picked it up, pulled out a knife, and cut away the tape. "What did you get, man?" Fonzie started pulling the contents out of the care package and displaying them on the ground. "Turkey bites, drink mix, washcloth, hand warmers? Oh yeah, you're definitely going to need those. Yeah, it's not like we're in the desert or anything, right?" "Who's that from?" This girl I know. We're not super serious or anything. I met her on the internet when we were in Afghan last year." "That's terrible, man." "Nah, it's not bad." "Never trust a woman from the internet," said the Marine laying at our feet. The Marine, Corporal Becker, sat up. "I met this one chick on a dating site, and it was fucking terrible." "Oh yeah? Tell us about it." "Okay, so I get on this dating website. I'm talking to chicks from all over the place, and I meet this one girl, Rebecca. We email each other for a while, and then we start texting, and then she says she wants to meet me. So before I go to meet her, we do the video chat first to make sure she's the same girl in the pictures she sends me. We chat for a bit, and she's fucking hot. Long blonde hair, big fat tits, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, we set up a date, and I go to her house to pick her up. Her dad answers the door, and I tell him I'm here to meet Rebecca. He says okay and goes back in the house to get her. 2 minutes later, he pushes this bitch out in a wheelchair. I'm thinking, fuck. Anyway, he helps me load her into her car, and we drive off. And I'm trying to keep my eyes on the road and not make it look like I noticed that she doesn't have any fucking legs. I asked her what she wants to do that night, and she tells me there's a baseball diamond just up the road. Now, this is back in Alaska. Nothing is just up the road. The drive takes about an hour. We're chit-chatting for a bit, and she pulls her compact out of her purse, and instead of makeup in it, she's got fucking cocaine. She asks if I want some, and I tell her I'm good. She snorts a bunch of it. I mean, a fucking lot. Eventually, we get to the field, and I park and carry her to the dugout. She starts talking about how pretty the stars are, and blah, blah, blah. Then she kisses me, and I'm like, whatever. I mean, I'm weirded out, but, tits are tits. After a bit, she starts taking off my pants, and I'm like, whoa, girl. And she says, what, you don't want this? And I tell her to go at it. She didn't have legs, like at all. Like body ended at the hips. So she's holding onto the chain link fence behind us to bob herself up and down like she's doing pull-ups. We get done, and I carry her back to the car and drive her back to her place without saying a fucking word. I bring her to the door and give her back to her dad, and he tells me to wait a minute while he puts Rebecca into bed. And I'm thinking, great, this guy's going to kick my ass for fucking his daughter. He says, Rebecca hasn't been out in a while, and she seems like she had a good time with you. She doesn't date much, and the last asshole that she went out with ditched her in a baseball field like an hour away from here. Fonzie shook his head. Dude, you made that shit up. No, man, it happened. I swear to God. Come on, Fonz. I slapped Fonzie on the arm. Let's go smoke. Eclair was in the smoke pit with a few grunts from Fox Company.
Good afternoon, Corporal.
Eclair acknowledged me. I just gave him a hey and pulled out my cigarette.
Corporal Allensworth, hey, I have a question for you.
What's that, Boot?
In Afghanistan, did the locals play ridiculous music at dawn every day?
Yeah, man, it's an Islamic thing. They play it from the mosques. Fonzie added, it always reminds me of the Lion King with the Sabemya. Everyone in the smoke pit chuckled.
It's fucking annoying.
Eclair said. Well, get used to it. They're not going to stop.
What else did they do in Afghanistan?
Fuck all kinds of shit. You can ask Fonzie here. We weren't all to just kill people we took prisoner, but when we were in Lashkar Gah, we caught a few guys with IED making material and gave them to the Afghan National Police. Their headquarters prison was adjacent to our fob. At night, we'd hear the police just beating the shit out of these guys we caught laying the bombs. Even with those guys' blood-curdling screams, the worst part of it was laying there at night listening to them scream while right outside donkeys were fucking.
What?
Yeah, man. It was like something out of a horror movie. There'd be guys screaming, and at the same time you'd hear, "Ah, yeah, yeah." He thrust his hips, fucking the imaginary donkey.
Jesus H. Christ, dude.
Eclair said with a disturbed look on his face. Yeah, man, I added. It was fucking weird. With the defenses built up, things started to get boring. We all still stood post, but that became the biggest part of our day. Most of the time, when we weren't staring into the desert watching for Iran, we tried to work out, read books, smoke, and bullshit. We weren't getting complacent, but we were on that road. As more troops started flooding into Iraq, a few things got better. We started getting hot chow for dinner, and since Kat got our vehicles, we got to drive across the city every evening to pick up the food for the Marines at the airport. The chow came in these big green coolers. It kept the food warm. It wasn't necessarily good, but it was a hell of a lot better than MREs. We'd return the previous day's empty containers and load the trucks with that night's slop. One night, while the sun was falling out of the western sky, I opened the mail I'd gotten from Kennedy. She was doing fine. She didn't really have anything to say, but she did enclose another provocative photo of herself. I stood on the smoke deck next to Doc and Eclair. I showed Kennedy's photo to Doc.
Nice, man. She's got some nice tits.
Eclair then asked curiously,
Who's that?
naked photos of my girlfriend?
You must not like her very much, Corporal.
She's a stripper.
Doc defended what honor an Oceanside stripper could have.
Oh,
Eclair nodded.
can I see it?
No,
Why not, Corporal?
because you're a fucking boot. Doc and I laughed at him. Doc, I'm glad she tries to keep it kind of classy. Like she doesn't have this magic marker shoved up her ass or anything. I handed the picture to Eclair. Here you go, Boot. Eclair examined the photo.
Damn, Corporal, she's hot.
Yeah, no shit. Eclair handed the picture back to me.
My girlfriend Jenny won't do that.
The tit photo thing?
Doc asked.
Or shove random writing utensils up her ass?
Neither. She kind of writes me kinky letters, but all I get picture-wise is bikinis. And they're pictures of her at the beach anyway. So I'm not getting any more than what everyone else gets to see on the internet.
Dump her ass. I lit another cigarette.
I don't think it's that bad.
It is.
Yeah. I exhaled a thick plume of smoke. Think of it like this. Naked photos are essential to a relationship. It says to you that she loves you and wants you to come home, and it shows what she's got waiting for you when you come home. Doc took over.
It's also physical proof that she has faith in your relationship. It also says that she trusts you and that she thinks enough of you that you're not going to put those pictures of her tits on the internet or anything.
The thing about that, though, it's not cool that she won't send you sexy pics, but it's even more not cool if you tell her that it's not cool. Don't ever deal with chicks like that. Just dump her.
Yeah.
Doc agreed.
I guess I never looked at it like that.
I mean, unless the chick's the Great White Buffalo.
The Ted Nugent song?
No, dude. You know the chick you used to date or almost dated or whatever? And you think about her all the time, but because of whatever it was that happened, you two are never going to get back together. But if the opportunity would ever present itself, then you would totally leave your girlfriend or wife in the drop of a hat.
Okay. I know who you're talking about.
But there's a catch to that, I added. You absolutely cannot actually be with that woman. If you never break up with her, you'll get married and be fucking miserable, and you'll end up just fucking hating the bitch because there would have been so much more that you could have done with your life that she held you back from, and you'll know it. You'll have 3 kids before you're 25, and you won't actually start having a real life until your 40s and halfway to death.
And what you think of that chick now is different than it would actually be. Like, it's kind of the same situation. There's this chick named Alice. I've been in love with her since I was 17. She'd never give me the time of the day. I'm firmly in the friend zone. It's fucked up because before every deployment I talk to her and ask her if it's cool if I write to her, and she says, yes, all excited and shit. Then I write to her all deployment long and she doesn't write one fucking word back. It's a morale killer. But anyway, Alice is more like a fantasy for me because if we ever did get together, what would actually happen would probably be completely different than what I worked up in my head. And fuck. It's at that point now where if I ever did go for it with Alice, I'd fuck it up and we'd never talk again. Right now, I'd rather have her as a friend and talk to her every once in a while than fuck it up and never talk to her again at all.
It sounds like you're not talking to her now, Doc.
Okay, well then, maybe I'm just a pussy. But I guess it's good I'm not with her. I'm always gone fucking fighting wars and shit. I'd never actually be around for her, and she'd probably end up leaving me anyway. It's probably better she's just happy somewhere. And you know, I'd like to think that she was thinking of me too sometimes, but she's probably not.
Yeah, I threw in. She's more of a fantasy at this point anyway.
You lost me on that.
Just write your girlfriend and tell her to show her your tits, and if she doesn't, stop talking to her. Or if this war ever fucking happens, you'll get too busy to want to talk to her and you'll ignore her and she'll fuck some guy at a party and leave you anyway.
Corporal, you seem like the kind of guy that's going to be a sergeant major one day, but still single and banging random chicks all the time.
I don't know about that. I actually almost got married one time.
Really? What happened to that?
Well, I went to Afghanistan and she started fucking one of the guys at her college. You know, that bit. Satin sheets. Can you believe a fucking name like that?
Oh, shitty. You still ever talk to her? Is she that girl to you?
Fuck no. That bitch wouldn't piss on me if I was on fire to save her life. Much less talk to me. I don't know about the Buffalo thing. I think there has to be a bridge that hasn't been burned into the ground to qualify for that one.
Ah.
And the whole thing pissed me off. I saw pictures of them together on the internet and all, and the dude was uglier than a bulldog and fatter than a whale. I don't understand chicks like that, man.
It could be worse, dude. At least you didn't find out she left you by way of seeing a video of her getting gangbanged by a bunch of black dudes like Walters.
Oh, I forgot about that.
What happened?
Well, you see, what happened was, Walter's girlfriend decided that she wanted to do porno. And Walters is a weirdo anyway, so he agrees to it. His only stipulations were she couldn't fuck more than one guy at a time, or any black dudes.
Okay.
So we're in Afghanistan for like 3 months, and we find a video of his girlfriend because we all knew she was a porn star. We bring him into the tent and make him watch this video. He sits down and we start to play the movie on someone's laptop, and his girlfriend comes out and starts saying slutty things to the camera. Then, 5 giant black dudes show up and start gang fucking her.
Dude, that is fucked up.
Then Walter starts crying and trying to leave, and since no one liked him, we made him sit there and watch the whole thing.
It was awesome. It wasn't the most fucked up thing that ever happened, but it was up there.
That sounds pretty fucked up to me, Corporal.
Yeah, but about the old single sergeant major thing? The stars come out at night and diamonds are a girl's best friend, but bombs and rifles win wars. The next afternoon, I lied with my head propped up against my pack on the cool concrete floor of the hangar, failing to fall asleep. I heard Becker outside telling a story. I figured I'd go listen in. Becker was reading aloud from a book to several other Marines who were sitting on the ground listening. Claudia laid awake in bed. The early morning sun cut between the curtains of her bedroom window. The red satin sheets felt warm against her skin. They were soft to the touch. Claudia ran the material between her fingers. She hadn't opened her eyes for the first time that morning. She pretended the body pillow she was cuddling was the tall, tanned man from work. She fondled the pillow's midsection and imagined the things the man would say to her if it was him, in fact, laying beside her. Claudia's hand slowly made its way from the pillow to the side of her thigh. She caressed herself to the part between her legs that was growing increasingly moister. She rubbed her fingers over her sex through her lacy green boy shorts. She imagined what the muscular man from work would do to her if he were there. Keeping one arm wrapped around the body pillow, she stroked her kitten. She started to breathe heavily. This is starting to get good, Alvarado said through a mouthful of tobacco. Claudia felt a bit adventurous that morning. Using just her fingers to love herself wasn't gonna cut it. She slowly removed the linen from her perfect body and slid her feet to the floor. She was home all alone, and there was a fire in her loins. She made her way to the kitchen. Claudia had heard stories of people using food to please themselves. Maybe she had something that would be her lover for the morning.
What in the fuck are you reading, Becker?
Doc interrupted. Becker showed Doc the book's cover, 50 Shades of Dave. Where did you get that? I inquired. Oh, I stole it from the USO in Kuwait.
Alrighty then. Continue, please.
Becker looked back at the pages. Claudia opened the refrigerator door to find nothing she felt comfortable with. She decided that she'd eat breakfast while she thought of something to do to herself. Pulling out a cup of yogurt and a spoon, she thought that maybe she'd visit one of those silly sex sites. She had never been to one. Maybe while she was all worked up would be the best time to go. Who writes these? Alvarado asked.
Some fat bitch fulfilling her fantasies.
Doc answered. Claudia walked into the living room and slid the cold, moist yogurt into her mouth. A drop of the white goo fell from the spoon and landed on her left nipple. She was, after all, only wearing panties. She went to remove the sploosh with her hand. When her palm made contact, she found herself rubbing her breast instead of cleaning up. Claudia didn't know why, but she enjoyed the feel of the cool, semi-solid gunk spread across her chest. She took another spoonful of the yogurt and plopped it between her breasts. Using both hands, Claudia massaged her upper body with the yogurt. Her breathing became labored again.
This bitch is a tease,
Doc complained. She glanced up, and through the window she saw Dave, the pool boy, toiling away at the water. He had no idea she was watching, and Claudia didn't care that if Dave turned, he would see her. In fact, it made Claudia's blood boil, knowing that he could. Dave had his hands in the pool, scrubbing away the gunk that had been growing. The pool looked like a swamp. Claudia imagined that her feminine parts were the water and Dave's hands were working away on her. Dave was tall and lean with short blonde hair. Now it's getting to the good part. Dave pulled his dripping wet hands out of the swamp-like ooze and pulled his shirt off. Claudia, in turn, slipped off her panties. Her sex was oozing with wetness like honey from a comb. But she didn't lay a finger between her legs. She was getting all she needed from the yogurt on her breasts. Dave grabbed a pole to scoop out the algae that was growing in the ill-kept water. Matching his movements, Claudia took her spoon and swirled it around her nipples. She closed her eyes and rolled her head back into the sofa, still using the spoon to pleasure herself.
I wonder if the carpet matches the drapes.
It does, but the upholstery doesn't.
What does that even mean?
I don't know, Doc. Becker, please continue. When Claudia opened her eyes again, she saw Dave standing in the window with a look of surprise on his face. His mouth was half open and a blunt rested on his lip. Claudia wasn't shocked. She wanted him. She scooped a spoonful of yogurt from the cup and splashed it where her legs met. Looking Dave straight in the eye, she used the spoon to play with the ooze melting on her pussy. She tapped her love button. The cold metal was surprisingly delightful. Claudia beckoned Dave in.
Okay, I'm out.
Doc tapped my shoulder.
Let's go smoke before we have to go get chow.
I heard Becker continue the story as we walked away. Claudia stood from the couch and dropped to her knees, abusing the spoon with her tongue. Fox Company, along with the attached cap platoon, stayed at the airport. The battalion headquarters was 10 minutes away on the west side of the city. I don't know why they didn't just send a cook or two out to each company. They kept them all up at HQ. We ate MREs for breakfast and lunch, and every night Cat would go get dinner for Fox. We loaded the previous day's food containers in the trucks and drove out to the cooks. We traded our dirty green tote boxes for new ones, filled with what only qualifies as food because it doesn't kill you if you eat it. The food wasn't prepared anywhere special. It was just outside a tent. On the inside, there were wooden tables for Marines who stayed in that area to eat. We pulled the trucks right up to the back of the tent. Chow wasn't ready yet. Everyone in my truck got out to stretch our legs, except Fonzie. He stayed up in the turret. He had plenty of room to move his legs around. Kyle, the driver, Fields, our vehicle commander, Doc, and I stood behind the truck smoking cigarettes. We were sarcastically commenting on how nice it had to be to work around the battalion staff officers and get to eat hot food 3 times a day when we heard a whistling. Everyone's face grew stern. Incoming!
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Smokepit Fairytales Chapter 4. I'd like to thank Chuck Lavaki and Dan Brady for doing the voice work on this. I'd also like to thank my patrons and anybody who's bought the War Chest, which is the first 6 books of this series inside of a custom painted, ammo can. And then there's also, like, stickers and cards and a patch and all that fun stuff in there. So yeah, that's the thing to get. That's the thing to get. All right, I'll see you around.